annoy you and probably piss you off, but here goes. I think Roman Reigns is probably the most overrated main eventer in WWE history. Like, I know this isn't a wrestling term, it's a music term, but Roman Reigns is what music would call an industry plant.
The Podfather Conrad Thompson has recently gone viral for some comments about Roman Reigns being overrated. So let's see what Conrad had to say about Roman Reigns on 83 Weeks. Fair use.
Reigns, it was the longest match of the weekend. They went 33 minutes and 33 seconds. What felt like a million false finishes. I just assumed there would be some interference. It didn't happen. Roman Reigns gets the win. He retains. And part of me feels like, hey, I'm ready for something new. But the other part of me thinks, hey, they're just getting started with this. We're probably going to get a series of these matches as we get ready for next year's WrestleMania, which certainly feels like, after we saw Obafemi close night one in a non-title affair in a Hell in a Cell as he maybe retired Brock Lesnar again, it feels like next year at WrestleMania it's going to be Oba versus Roman. So they're probably going to keep those guys separated for a bit. So what does Roman do in the meantime? Is it more Seth Rollins? And would you be for that after the match you saw tonight? And mostly, what'd you think of the match?
It wasn't a bad match. It was a good match. It was a great match in some respects. But it didn't do much for me. I mean, maybe because I'm just kind of over it. It doesn't feel compelling in any way. It doesn't grab my interest for any specific reason. I don't feel like if I fail to engage in that story that I'll miss anything, because I've kind of seen a lot of it, variations of it. So unless there's an element that can come out of this matchup shortly that makes it really more interesting, for whatever reason, that's the challenge. Come up with a reason to make it feel unique and compelling. But unless they come up with that, I know they're both great wrestlers. I know a lot about them. I just don't know anything new about them. So I really don't care about it. Hopefully they can make me care.
I'm going to give you a hot take that's going to annoy you and probably piss you off, but here goes.
So I think so before Conrad gives his controversial take, the Roman Reigns Seth Rollins match, yes, it is 11, 12 years in the making. Did we learn anything about these guys? Knew about these guys? No, as Eric Bischoff said. But it was something that had to come to an end, and I thought the match was fantastic. I thought it paid great homage to their 12-year run. So let's continue to hear Conrad out.
Reigns is probably the most overrated main eventer in WWE history. Like, I know this isn't a wrestling term, it's a music term, but Roman Reigns is what music would call an industry plant. I don't think if Roman Reigns disappears tomorrow, WWE's fortune changes at all. I think, they pushed him so hard against the grain. Down our throats is the phrase that Triple H would use about why they're not pushing Braun Breaker. Well, they pushed Roman down our throats forever. We had a good storyline with the bloodline, but now that the bloodline is it feels like it's into its black and silver era of the NWO.
Hold on,
it's kind of like it was a fun moment.
We're gonna give Conrad flowers for that one because that is 100% true. I've been on that all year. So we're gonna give Conrad for that part, and we're gonna break down what he says piece by piece.
But it's time to move on. I just don't know that there's any really truly fanatical Roman Reigns fans. Like, if they booked Roman the way they do Punk or the way they do Cody or the way they do anyway, I just feel like we've been conditioned to believe he's the top guy, but there's no real reason. I don't know that anybody could say, here's my favorite Roman match or here's my favorite. When people talk about their favorite match ever, how many people list a Roman Reigns match? How many people list their favorite promo ever as a Roman Reigns match? And it's not like he's doing the world PR tour and doing all the heavy lifting like they have a Cody Rhodes or before that, a John Cena doing. He just flies in, Takes 12 minutes to get to the ring, wrestles kind of the same match, does it really, really slow, gets his hand raised, and he moves on. He's Goldberg if Goldberg worked more than 10 minutes.
All right, all right, Con. We gotta hold on, Conrad. We gonna get you for that one, Conrad. No, we gonna get you for that one.
Shut up, Conrad. Bitch.
Yeah, Conrad, you deserve that one for that. Don't you ever. Don't you, Conrad.
Acknowledge me.
Thank you. Let's continue.
Okay. Well, how about that?
I know that's not what you're expecting, because apparently people think that I support everything WWE, which is clearly not the case. But I give an honest opinion, and I look at things from a business perspective, which probably puts me on the WWE side of the equation for obvious reasons, because they're doing really, really well. But there are things like this that I just shake my head at. It's funny, how much I put over the Bloodline story. To this day, in this moment, I believe it's really one of the best stories that have ever been told in wrestling.
Yes.
For a lot of different reasons, but it'll never have the impact of the NWO for a variety of other reasons. So you can't, because of that, you can't really compare them, is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way. But like the NWO, which yours truly, I nosedived it by, growing it too big, and the red and white and the wolf pack and derivatives of the original NWO, too many guys into it, diluted the significance of it. Okay, you got me on that. I did that. But because I did that, because it's so obvious, why is WWE doing the same thing? Like, wouldn't somebody say, hey, remember when Bischoff did this with the NWO and you did all, you did this, you did. If there's if there's a compelling story, here we go again. Fucking compelling stories, always at the root of all disappointment and evil. If they can come up with a compelling story that makes it feel new, I'm in, because we know that the creative team has the ability. We've seen it before. They've demonstrated their prowess, so we know it can happen. Doesn't happen every time, but it can. The potential's there. And if they come up with a great story, they can, because the potential's there, and make that feel fresh, boom, I'm in. But if they keep doing what I did, which is riding it till it dies, essentially, people will reflect back on the Bloodline storyline and have a less favorable opinion of it. Not because it wasn't a great story that achieved all the things that a great story needs to achieve in order to be considered one of the best stories that have ever been told. Achieved a lot of those things, if not all of those things. But it's kind of like a fighter that just refuses to retire and goes out there and gets manhandled by somebody 25 years younger. If they would have just stopped 2 or 3 fights earlier, they'd be legends. Now they're footnotes. And that's what will happen to the Bloodline story if they don't come up with a way to either make it more exciting and interesting and live up to the expectation that they've already created with the audience. People like yours truly, I have an expectation. It's your fault. You got me there before. Now get me there again. If not, leave it alone. Come up with something fresh. Go a different direction. So I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that you agree with me, but I do want to ask you, this is a fun exercise. As a reminder, since we're just getting our heat, I'm getting buried in the comments. Keep them coming. I appreciate it. I know it's a hot take. I've thought it for a long time. I finally said it today. As a reminder, and I want to say this in a loud and clear voice, no one gave a shit about Roman Reigns until he shared the screen with Paul Heyman. And we all agree that Paul Heyman was a part of the Bloodline storyline, and the Bloodline storyline is maybe one of the greatest storylines in WWE history. But would we feel that way without Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn? Specifically, I phrase it that way because it feels like the internet, for whatever reason, has decided, about Jimmy and Jey Uso. Well, what else is there? If you strip away Sami Zayn, you strip away Paul Heyman, do we ever get as invested in the Bloodline storyline? I don't know that we do. If we don't sprinkle in a little rock garnish, does it get as hot as it did? I don't know that we feel that way, but that's just me. What do you think, Eric? With the blood?
All right, so Conrad, he's cooking on these aspects. Well, I'll start with this saying, I don't think Roman Reigns is overrated. I do think that if he wasn't around WWE, they'll probably be fine. They'll find somebody else. but I do not feel that Roman Reigns is overrated. He talked about at the top of this segment that before they were trying to force him down everybody's throats. Now, at that point, it's like, I thought he's underrated because we got these wrestling fans, especially around the era where Roman was taking over. We got these wrestling fans. It's like, if you don't have some indie resume around the 2015, 2014, 2015, 2016 time, if you don't have some indie resume, then you weren't valid. And we always talked about on this show, because this show's been around for 10 years. We talked about all the time, I love how The Rock had this big, huge indie career. You love The Rock, and things like that. And you guys, all these people who had these big, who so quote unquote had all these big indie careers, and look at the guys that we got in the position WWE right now. So Roman Reigns was growing up in that era because that's when the independent guys started to come in, especially to NXT. Shinsuke Nakamura, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, AJ Styles. All these guys, they quote unquote paid their dues, worked TNA, worked Ring of Honor, worked independent circuits. But Roman Reigns, people, I remember going to WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, and we were in some pizza shop, I think, and we were standing next to this guy, and this guy was saying, I think the reason Roman's not over is because he wasn't on the indies. And this was like, wait, what? Are you serious? What? I didn't say it, but we're just huh? There's things that come out these people's mouths. But like I said, if anything, I would say Roman's underrated because people didn't like him because he was shoved down his throat. But his performances were still great. But when he became the tribal chief, things did get taken to another level. And Conrad is right about this too. The Usos at a certain point in time, whatever. Did people look at Roman Reigns the way they look at Roman Reigns now before Paul Heyman? Absolutely not. And the whole Sami Zayn aspect of it, that added another layer to the bloodline, because what the bloodline became was a weekly episodic story, and there were things going on with the blood. And then that's when Roman Reigns would begin not to show up a lot, and he deserved every second of that not to show up because he was champion for so long. There's but so much that he was able to do. So him not being on TV was validated and better for a storytelling perspective. But the Sami Zayn aspect of it really helped out Roman Reigns in the long run. So Conrad is right about that, because that Sami Zayn story took the bloodline to the next level and continued to have people care. Let's continue.
Bloodline storyline have worked as well without Heyman and Sammy.
Well, definitely without Heyman, he was the glue. He was the catalyst. He was the glue, and he was the propellant. He's the reason it all happened. He was the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, of the master manipulator that had this Svengali-like relationship, with his guys. Heyman was central to that. Sammy did such a phenomenal job. He made you believe, even if you weren't already, on the team, so to speak, but the bloodline, and you aren't already a huge fan. Boom, Sammy kicked it up another notch. That's why, and that's particularly the addition of Sammy's performance in particular,
yes,
is what made me really engage in the bloodline story. The rest of it, I'd seen versions of it before. I kind of was part of something.
As Bischoff just said, Sami Zayn, integral part of the storyline, especially with the whole Kevin Owens thing, proving his loyalty to Roman Reigns. That whole hug at Survivor Series in the cage when Sammy had to make a choice between Kevin and the bloodline, and he chose the bloodline, and finally getting both Usos to, well, I believe it was Jay who didn't accept him at first, and getting Jay to accept him, that would added so much to the entire bloodline storyline. So Sami Zayn definitely was a glue part when it came to the bloodline storyline.
There's a version of it before the template, just the faction thing, the similarities, but the way it was executed, the depth, And from my perspective, again, business, not, how many minutes in the ring. The story elevated so many people. I mean, NWO did too, but not like this. The number of people that really were able to step up in a relatively short period of time with a lot of focus on them while they were doing it, it was very, very impressive from a business perspective.
Some comments here. There's a lot of Samoans. That's true. The host is fishing, bro. Just say you didn't enjoy the main event. I did enjoy the main event. I thought the main event was fine. I'm just saying, hey, we're sitting here having a conversation about why is there a glass ceiling for certain talent? Are they going to roll the dice and move some people up? Like, does anybody think that Roman Reigns is going to beat Obafemi next year at WrestleMania? And
No.
if you think that's the case, like, is there really a case for that being what's best for business at this point? Like, let's just process how long he's been positioned as a top guy. His first WrestleMania main event was 2015. That was 11 years ago. Can you imagine if Hulk Hogan main evented 11 WrestleManias in a row? Even they took a break. That doesn't seem to be the case for the bloodline and certainly not for Roman Reigns. I'm just saying, for me, I enjoy Roman Reigns as a part of that bloodline story. I want Heyman by his side. I like the accoutrement, him as a singles performer. There's a sense of sameness. Even guys like The Undertaker have to switch it up. I'm ready to see something different than. And I want to know from you guys, is that something you're looking for? Or do you think, hey, I'm an idiot and Roman's the man? How about his Oriental says, Conrad?
All right, so we'll stop it right there. So my take on it, I do not think Roman Reigns is overrated. Like I said, I think the pre-tribal chief stuff is underrated because from an in-ring perspective, he always delivered. Maybe not the best promo, but when he was in that ring, he got the job done. This version of Roman Reigns definitely going on too long. Bloodline storyline, as Conrad said, NWO, black and silver, Shaq Celtics. Maybe not that bad, but you get my point. Long-winded. It ended at it peaked and ended at WrestleMania 40, but it did not. But Roman Reigns coming out every week with, as the young kids say, aura, able to deliver, able to tell these stories, probably better than anybody in the business in any other companies, is something that you can't necessarily call overrated. But Conrad had some valid points. I'm not going to call him a bunch of names and lose my mind like a lot of people have. Conrad has a lot of points. I just don't necessarily agree with all of them. But he had a very well thought out. He had a very well thought out argument, and I appreciate that. And it was a good conversation piece. But I said I agreed with some of it, but the outcome is I do not agree that Roman Reigns is overrated. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys think Roman Reigns is overrated? Do you think the tribal chief is overrated? What do you think about his stuff as the big dog before the tribal chief? Do you think that was underrated or overrated? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, that was a good long segment, guys.